fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
What you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. Hey, you're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. This is your host, John Reed. This episode is another one of those very special preview episodes that we give you just a little taste of what our Patreon co-executive producers get each and every month as part of their bonus content for being a co-executive producer and a supporter over there on Patreon. So if you are not already, and if you want to hear the full episode, head on over to 30podcast.com/donate, become a co-executive producer at any level of support, and you get the full episode. So we hope you enjoy this preview. It is the 30-something movie podcast, one of our Patreon exclusive episodes. I am your host, John Reed. I have with me a gaggle of gentlemen that are ready to talk about the ladies, the women in film. And we're all going to behave ourselves, aren't we?
Certainly.
Okay. All right. Well, first off, Dennis Matuch, how you doing?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Good. Doing all right. Jeff Mizuka.
Hey, what's up, man?
You need to, back when I had a brace on my hand for a while, I put infinity stones on it. Have you thought about doing that with yours?
Well, I actually got word today that I don't need to wear it anymore.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
And after dealing with the kids for a little bit, it was pretty sore, so put it back on for a little bit. But yeah, no, going forward, I can work on physical therapy and move along.
Nice.
That's great news, man. That's great news.
And avoid ice at all costs.
Yes. Unless it's in a glass.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right, Pat. I caught you in the middle of drinking something.
It's okay, man. How's everybody doing?
Bo Warmbold, how are you?
Yo,
Bo.
Am I still oddly delayed?
Yes, but your video and audio are hooked up perfectly.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny because it took you a few seconds to get that. It really makes the joke even better.
well, the funniest exact, but yes,
He's
yes,
Well, I thought that was going along with the oddly delayed.
yes.
All right. Well, our episode we've got tonight, this is for the benefit of our Patreon exclusive listeners. So thank you, Patreon patrons, our co-executive producers, as always.
I feel like we need to apologize to them right up front.
I mean, I'm going to edit out some of this, so it's only like half an apology is needed.
Okay.
So
Did you, I know in the past sometimes you have polled the Twitterverse on this topic. Did you do that this time around?
I did not do that for this one.
Okay.
So we are going, it's just the five of us, we are going au naturel, which is what I think that means.
I think we need to use social media manager.
I do not think you know what these words mean, but that's okay.
That doesn't mean what I think it means when you don't use Twitter to find your answers? Okay.
No, I think
All
that no.
And our topic this time is women in film. So I sent out the call, some questions to challenge each of our hosts here on who is your favorite actress? What is your favorite movie with a female lead? Who is your favorite magical girlfriend movie? And we'll explain that. What is your favorite damsel in distress situation? And what is your favorite female director, producer, writer, composer? It can be any one of those. It could be all of those, whatever you choose to put in there. So that's what we got for tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and you can have, I know for each of you, I gave you the opportunity to put in some runners up if you wanted to, so we can just kind of, as we're going through, you can discuss any of those as you wish. But we'll go ahead and start off with favorite actress. So what did you put down for your favorite actress?
Favorite actress.
Favorite actress category. Bo.
This was hard, man. So I have a large runner-up category, but obviously I'm going to wait and see. Actually, I can see everyone's here. None of my runner-ups show up in anyone else's list, so I think this is going to be fun. A lot of soul-searching later, I landed on Natalie Portman, but I'll tell you, this was tough. It was hard to pick one because there are so many talented actresses that it was really tough to choose just one.
What was your, and I might ask each one of you this because I didn't specify, what's your criteria for your favorite actress?
I went through and I tried to think, like, from the breadth of their work, I liked more movies than I didn't like. That was one. For two, I liked early and later films of theirs. Like, some of my runners up, I only liked their early work or their later work, and it's like, okay, that's not really a thing. And some of it was, admittedly, as I'm looking at the list, some of it was like, these are also some movies that I'll go back to. Like, it's got to be something I enjoyed enough to want to watch again. That was another one that seemed to pop up a lot for me.
Okay.
Well, I started thinking, like, so what actresses do I enjoy watching? And then looking at a list of, a resume of their work and seeing what their scope of work is. How far have they pushed themselves with different characters, and have I enjoyed seeing them portray different characters? Or do they fall into more of a, you know what you're getting with this actress?
Yeah.
Kind of like with a Vince Vaughn type thing. Like you cast Vince Vaughn, you know what you're getting with Vince Vaughn, right?
Right.
So I try to look at the whole body of work and just seeing, like I said, how far have they stepped out of who they are to portray a character? How many times has it worked? Has it been believable? And that helped me land on a specific choice. Are we revealing? Bo, did you say who yours was?
Yeah, I said my favorite actress was Natalie Portman. I didn't get into my runners up. I figured we'd save those for the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have three of your runners up were on my long list, a little bit longer list, and then when I actually cheated and saw what you had, I took them off just because I figured you would give them credit. So then that would allow me to, because I couldn't keep. I was running out of space in the box, but
no kidding. I mean, this was tough.
Yeah, because the criteria is the tougher question. I think what are you going for? I kept asking myself that over and over again, and that was hard.
If I can ask a quick follow-up question, and we can get into it later. Bo, you chose Natalie Portman, and you mentioned all the different criteria. Can you real quick just kind of describe, like, other than the obvious, I mean, she's a fantastically awesome actress, but like, what movies were kind of the high points of the later work and the early work? Give me the rundown of like why you settled on her.
Well, I was thinking, it was hard for me to steer away from the fact that she's in one of my favorite franchises of all time in Star Wars. So that put her on the list to begin with. But I was a fan of hers before that. I remember hearing when she was going to be in Star Wars, I was like, wait a minute. This is like two worlds colliding for me. I love this. And then I was trying to remember what I loved about her early work. And I remember seeing her in Leon the Professional back in 94. And even then you could see there was something special about her. Like, and then Beautiful Girls. And then she sort of broke away from in Mars Attacks. She got to be totally different. And then there was Star Wars, obviously. Zoolander, when she plays herself, it's not a huge deal, but it's just so special that she was able to just bounce in and out of that. And then I saw her in some more indie stuff like Garden State.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she was at home in all of those was great. V for Vendetta, which I ended up choosing as my favorite movie that she was in. A lot of screen time for her there, a lot. So she got to explore some different emotions there, which was amazing. I really liked the other Boleyn girl, too, that she was in. I had seen that. And then she was hysterical in No Strings Attached, which, that was one of those movies that could have gone really bad because that one and another one just like it came out the same year. But I like that one better. I think because she's in it and she brings a lot to that. So she's already been in Star Wars, and then she shows up in the MCU as Jane Foster, which was outstanding. And I really I felt so cheated. I felt like we could have gotten so much more out of that character, but there was no time in all those movies. And that's another thing.
Maybe you will in the next movie, though.
Well, right. I wanted more from that character because she was so good. And then the movie of hers that I didn't expect to like because I felt like it just could have fallen flat was Jackie. When she got to play Jackie Kennedy. Yeah. That was cool. And then when you see her on Saturday Night Live, she's super funny. And then, she came back and did a little voiceover thing for the What If series. It's the breadth of everything. Sorry, I think you were asking about early stuff, and I went through the whole thing, but you get the idea.
I get the idea, and I meant the whole thing. That's what I meant. That was. I
don't even think I mentioned in all that. I didn't even mention Black Swan, which is obviously a mistake. Should have mentioned Black Swan.
And Heat.
Yeah. Shoot, yeah.
So.
Did you ever see Annihilation?
No.
That was a good one.
I did.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oscar Isaac was in that. She was in that. Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
That's the other thing. As I'm looking at this, I thought I had seen a lot, and I have. But there's also a bunch I missed somehow. So I was surprised by that.
All right. So that is Bo's first one, Natalie Portman. And did you say what your favorite movie was with her in it?
I did, but it was V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta. I just think that was she got to show a lot of breadth in that. And I mean, how can you not remember the 5th of November?
All right. Dennis, what about yours?
All right, so the criteria was hard on this, and I ended up going back to I went from am I going to go to more of the craft, and best actress based on craft and ability to disappear into roles, or and then who do I watch, or who would I watch another movie? Kind of what Bo was sort of saying, who do you find yourself gravitating to if you watch that? And then there's I didn't know if this came in with Pat with the maybe the it didn't appear to it at least it sees, but who do you have that sort of almost attraction to as an actress too? And the one I came up with was I ended up trying to go different ways, and then I was like, well, I keep coming back to Sandra Bullock. So Sandra Bullock was mine. I think I had a big crush on her in the 90s, and when I say just not from just a physical standpoint, just something about the personality that I saw both on and off screen. And then when I started going, well, that seems too superficial to put that on because of, some of the reasons. But I was thinking, well, then looking at the body of work and Gravity and the ability to do an action film, the ability to do a drama, the romantic comedy, all those things. I feel like she's a little bit like a Tom Hanks female where she can pull off the serious, blind, what do you call it? The one with the football player, Blindside, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic in that.
And you go through, and then Unforgivable, she's in that one now, more of a drama, but so I just looked at, I think then I kept going back to, well, she has the ability to do all those things, so therefore I think it is a valid choice. And, like I said, I had a big list of runners-up, and I think I just came back to that one. While You Were Sleeping was the first movie when I say first movie, not the first movie I saw with her, it would probably be, I probably saw Speed first, I think, but it was just the first one where I was just like, oh, she's just awesome. Where do I find a Sandra Bullock? But the acting piece, like I said, I think she can do everything pretty well and be accepted in those roles. Crash. I mean, she has a serious role in Crash, and it's good.
Yes.
For the movie that I put down on there, again, that was tough too. When I say favorite, like my daughter has watched this film a lot, and it's the one While You Were Sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was the one where I was like, oh, it's amazing. So I will still. That's one of the so-called quote unquote chick flicks that people often label. That is a go-to. That if I see that, I'll be like, I'm watching that. But if I were to go more serious role, there's probably
She's
Gravity.
the fiance.
If I were to go more serious, it would have been Gravity.
The fiance.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I had never seen that one. Katie actually introduced me to that movie because that was always one that
nice.
While You Were Sleeping?
Yeah. I was like, this looks kind of stupid.
Great cast, too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Peter Boyle, all those, good groups in there. And you just kind of feel with her where she's trying to keep this whole, it's just the stories, it grips you enough where she wants to just tell the truth, but yeah. We're not doing runners up now or no?
We'll save them for just a little bit.
Okay.
We'll go through everybody's first, and then we'll go through. Jeffrey.
Well, so like I was saying earlier, like trying to narrow this down was, for all of us, it was a chore. And, before I get into it, I just want to say how the exercise of this episode and preparing for this episode really, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know as much about women in the industry outside of actresses. So there's a lot of learning that I still need to do about this industry. But in terms of favorite actress, I started, again, by looking at what movies have I enjoyed, what actresses have I enjoyed watching. And as I narrowed that list down, I thought, okay, well, now let's look at entire body of work and who's always impressed me with what she's done with whatever role she has. And with that in mind, I landed on Sally Field. I think that Sally Field is an incredible talent. When I look at, again, looking at everything, at all of her work and the different characters she's played, Forrest Gump's mom and Mrs. Lincoln and, Steel Magnolias and Mrs. Doubtfire, just every time she's done a role, even Aunt May, a role that she hated, she absolutely nailed. She never fails to impress. And then in terms of my favorite film of hers, I went with a film called Places in the Heart, which if you've never seen, it's such a great film. It takes place in Depression era, and she ends up having to run her cotton farm. Her husband is the sheriff and gets killed, so she ends up having to take care of her household and manage life in a world that's not acceptable of a woman making these decisions. And you really get to see the manipulation of non-white men, anyone that's not a white man, and how people were treated and manipulated by white men. But she just does a terrific job in portraying this mother trying to do whatever she has to for her family to survive. So there we go.
Great movie choice on that one, Jeff, because it's one of my favorite. And that going back, do we go to actresses from back in the day, more current? She does cover along many decades.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely one of the reasons why I went with her. It's just because she has a terrific resume.
Yeah, Place in the Heart I saw when I was 13, and that was like a favorite movie.
It sticks with you.
Yeah, it does.
John Melton.
I remember when somebody was at school, and I know somebody when we started to watch, I was like thinking, this is going to be horrible. You're 13. I was 13. It's not like a 13-year-old movie you would think, but then you watch it, and you're like, wow, that was a good movie.
If you gents haven't seen Places in the Heart, it's worth a watch.
Yes, I concur.
All right. Well, for mine, and Jeff, I wanted to kind of echo something you said, was that when we started doing this, and I kind of specifically picked this topic for this month because our month of February is all pretty much female-led films. That's kind of our theme running through February. But one of the other reasons I picked this is because, and I mentioned to you guys before, I have that Letterboxd app or website, and I have an account on there, and I pay for the like premium version of it, so I get a couple of extra things that I can do with it. And one of the things at the end of every year is it gives me, or I can look up all time, what my stats are. And it'll tell me, like, based on the movies that I've watched, here are my top 10 favorite directors. Or when I give movies a ranking on there, like 4 stars out of 5 or whatever, then it'll tell me, well, of what you've ranked, of the movies you've watched, here are your highly ranked directors or your highly ranked writers or actors or whatever. And so I was like, all right, well, when 2021 was ending, I was like, well, let's take a look at the stats. Let's see. Because then I finally went through and I was like, all right, I'm going to put in every movie that I can recall ever seeing. So I went through, I spent like way too much time, and I went through and I added every movie that I know that I've ever seen. And then I got my stats and I started looking through my stats and I was like, oh man, I've seen a lot of movies. And then I was like, all right, well, let's find out who, based on the movies I've seen, who are my favorite actors. And I was like, okay, well, that tracks pretty well. I got Sam Jackson, I've got Robin Williams, I've got Nicolas Cage, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Bruce Willis, Harrison Ford, John Goodman, Keanu Reeves, Matt Damon. All right, that's pretty solid. And then I started to look through directors. I've got Steven Spielberg, Tim Burton, Ridley Scott, Ron Howard, Richard Donner. I'm like, okay, cool. That looks good. And then I'm looking through this and I'm realizing, I'm like, there's not a single woman on this list. Like, of my favorite actors, there are no women. If I were to look if I were even to pull it to the top, what is that, top 20 that it gives me, top 25 that it gives me. I mean, Brad Pitt's haircut in this picture makes him look a little bit like a woman, but other than that, there are no women on my top 25 actors based on the movies that I've watched, that I've logged on this website. So I was like, all right, well, that's a little strange, but let's continue. And so I did the same thing with directors. And I was like, dang, there are no women directors in my top 25 either. That's kind of sad. And then they have this other list where they give you like percentages, like what percent of movies have you seen from the Oscar Best Picture winners? What movies have you seen from the AFI 100 Years, 100 Movies? And one of their lists is the top 100 movies directed by women. And that is probably my worst percentage. It's 4%. I was like, wow. I maybe have some more movies to go see. So that was part of one of the other reasons it kind of got me thinking that it would be interesting to do this topic as one of our Patreon episodes, because I'm like, yeah, I personally have got a lot missing on here, and I'm missing out on a lot. And I started to go through some of the list. I'm like, yeah, I love that director. I haven't seen that movie or that movie or that movie. I know those are great movies, but I just haven't seen them. So it's almost tripled my watch list is what this particular episode has done. So mine, same thing. I kind of went through the different criteria, same as you guys. And I was like, all right, so I have actresses who, I will continually go back to their movies. And I had a couple in mind in particular that it was tough to distinguish between the runners-up that I have and the one that I did finally pick as my top. And so the one I picked as my top actress was Charlize Theron, because I started to go back to what was the first thing I ever remember seeing her in and how has she grown as an actress from there. And the first thing I ever remember seeing her in was The Devil's Advocate. And it was, it wasn't a big part. She's a supporting actress. She was supposed to be, I think she was Keanu Reeves' wife. I'm pretty sure they were married. And, it was, things didn't work out well for her in that movie. And, but like, she's a pretty good actress. All right, it was pretty good, even for not a huge part. She's pretty good at that. And then I've kind of watched as she's gone from there. And while she's been in some other, kind of action movies, it's still like she's been in the Snow White and the Huntsman. She was in, what are some of the other ones? She was in Mad Max Fury Road. She was in the Prometheus. She's been in a bunch of those. She was in, I think, at least one of the Fast and Furious movies, maybe a couple of them. but she's also done Monster, Young Adult, The Road, that one that based off the Cormac McCarthy book. She did Cider House Rules. She's did a bunch of other movies. And so I kind of look at that and I go, all right, well, that's somebody that she can do comedy. I ended up getting free tickets to go see her and Seth Rogen in a movie called Long Shot. It was hilarious. So she can do comedy. She can do the action piece. She can do the dramatic piece. She can do horror. And then the favorite movie I put down, and that was probably the toughest part, was then to say, okay, well, which one is my favorite? And actually, the one that I put down is not the one I thought I was going to put down at first. I put down the movie Atomic Blonde. Any of you guys ever seen that one?
Long time ago, yeah.
Okay. So I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I just remember, I'm like, all right, Charlize Theron, she's done action before. We'll see how this goes. And that movie was intense. Like it was like Daniel Craig Bond levels of intensity when it came to the fight scenes and just the brutality of the whole thing. And yet, even though it was like a spy thriller action movie kind of a deal, she was funny in it. Her performance was great. The action pieces were great. So I'm like, all right. So that kind of that ticks a lot of boxes for me. And so even though I know she's been in some other ones that have been Oscar contenders and things like that, so that was the one I ended up going with for her. But it was tough. It was, once I narrowed it down to like my top 3 or 4, then it was tough to actually pick a one actress that I'd consider my favorite.
Yeah, I just saw Monster probably about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was on TV and I ended up watching it. Yeah, I saw it before that too, and it's just phenomenal. I think she got Academy Award nominated for that.
I think so. I don't think she won for that one, but
I don't think she won it, but I know she got nominated, which was she disappears in that role.
Yeah.
I mean, she gained weight for it. She did it's pretty good.
She's one of those actresses that in certain roles you'll kind of forget that that's her.
Chameleon, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mighty Joe Young, I think she was in too. That was one of the first ones I saw with her. Wasn't she in the Mighty Joe Young remake?
I think so.
With the gorilla.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Well, and then I'm going to have to go back. I know some of these we're going to end up doing as part of the podcast at some point. But yeah, she was in Mighty Joe Young. Yeah. At some point, I know we will do some of these, but I was like, wait a minute, she's in That Thing You Do?
Yeah, she is.
I'm like, yeah, she is. But it took me a second. Well, I was probably distracted by Liv Tyler, to be honest. But then I was like, yeah, she's in that movie. I completely forgot she was in that movie. So it kind of made me go back to the list to be like, all right, I now have a few more to go back and rewatch because I kind of forgot she was in that. Yeah. All right, Patrick. Your choice is no surprise to me.
Yeah, it's funny. It's fascinating hearing all your thoughts. I struggle so much picking a favorite actor or a favorite actress or anything like that. And, my problem is that everything for me is based off the character that they portray. So I found myself have a list of this person has been in one movie, but based on that one movie, not my choice, but like as I was going through the list, I'm like, oh, I picked that person. And I'm like, they were fantastic in whatever. And I'm like, well, does that make them my favorite? Shouldn't I pick someone that's like been in 40 movies or something? Well, yeah, but they aren't necessarily making the characters that are my favorite character. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of the chicken or the egg. I mean, and I was telling Jeff, I'm like, yeah, I can't decide. But then I said, for years and years and years, I told everyone Steve McQueen was my favorite actor. I'd seen him in 2 movies, Great Escape and Bullet. And you'd say Mag 7. I saw that later. So, I mean, it was like, wow, the guy's, and so it's real interesting because so much for me, it's just based off of those characters that they make or that they create. And so my choice is Carrie-Anne Moss, and the character of Trinity in The Matrix. It's one of my favorite movies, my favorite movie franchises. And that Trinity is one of my favorite characters of all time in film and, comic books and so forth and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, she brings to life one of my favorite characters. I mean, to the point that is her character. Like, you couldn't pick someone else to play that, you know? In fact, as I was researching this, it occurred to me, like, they said that The Matrix was kind of like her big breakout role, and, you know, in film. And so it's like, well, of course I hadn't heard of her before that, you know, because it was really, you know, that was her launching point. So, if I have that right. So anyways, I'd say Carrie-Anne Moss in The Matrix. She brings one of my favorite characters to life. And after that, I saw her. She was great in Memento. She was great in Red Planet. And I mean, you know, the other films that she was in, again, this is where I fall into my trap with any actor, actress, whatever their gender is. I don't necessarily go see, let's go see the latest so-and-so movie. Or, you know, it's like, if the topic looks interesting or if the character looks interesting, I'll check it out. But if not, I'll kind of take a pass. But everything I've seen Carrie-Anne Moss in, she's been fantastic. I thought she was, you know, incredible in Matrix Resurrections. I love what they did with the whole thing. And so, yeah, that was kind of, I gave it a whole lot of thought just to come back around to it being a no-brainer. You know, she's Trinity. So, I mean, well, for Pat, duh, that's going to be my favorite actress.
As always, we hope you've really enjoyed this preview. Again, if you want to join us over there, 30podcast.com/donate. That'll take you to the link where you can head on over to our Patreon page. And as I said before, any level of support there. There are levels of support where you can interact more with the show. You can suggest a movie for us to cover. You can come on the show as a co-host. There are all kinds of levels of support on there, but any level of support, even like $1 a month on there, gets you access to the bonus episodes that come each and every month, to our Patreon co-executive producers. Everybody be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.